Hey guys, it's G. So today we're talking about house paint. Now I apologize in advance, but this is going to be a longer video, but there's a lot of ground to cover on house paint and there's not nearly enough on the internet by ways of information when it comes to using house paint in acrylic pouring. So what I'm showing you now is an emulsion base C paint that I had colored at the paint store. This is what the guys at the store chase you after when you try to take this untinted. They want to color it for you. And this is the pouring medium that I'll be using. This is a locally made pouring medium and paint conditioner, so it behaves more like float roll than it does pouring medium. And it's on the runnier side. So if you're gonna mimic what I'm doing here with float roll, water your float roll down just maybe 3-to-1 float roll to water and work with it from there. Okay? That can was Minwax Pre-Stain, a wood conditioner. I'm just gonna keep it on the side to see if we need to supplement the cell activator. So here you can see the house paint. It's been colored. I got the closest shade I could to ultramarine blue. And I'm going to be mixing this with my pouring medium to create the colors layer. So I'm going to be adding 1-to-1 paint conditioner, and that should give me a nice runny consistency, because as you know, most house paint, unless you're in Australia, most house paint out of the tin is not actually runny enough to be used in acrylic pouring. And I am talking about emulsion paint, and this is a good opportunity to highlight that enamel paint and emulsion paint really aren't the same. They do not behave the same way. They're talked about like they can be substituted one for another, but there's a lot of things you have to account for. First of all, up until a few years ago, you didn't really have to distinguish water-based enamel paint from oil-based enamel paint, because enamel paint was synonymous with what's called alkyd-based paints, which are oil-based. Until very recently, companies like Behr and Valspar started producing water-based enamel paints that mimic the behavior of oil paints. When I say mimic the behavior of oil paints, I'm referring to the way that oil paints self-level. I'm referring to the way that they are very durable. I'm referring to the way that they have a very, very glossy, shiny finish. If you've seen the Behr high gloss paints, it's very hard to match that with latex paint. And enamel paint is much thicker when it comes to if you swirl or do little embellishments or rack your blooms with a toothpick or a skewer. Emulsion paint doesn't hide the strokes. It doesn't self-level as well. So that's something you need to keep in mind when you're using emulsion paint, is that it's inferior to enamel paint, whether water-based or oil-based. But we don't use any oil-based paint. We're only strictly in water-based enamels. Okay, so in this little experiment, I'm going to use a base paint or a pillow that is base A paint. It's just titanium white. And we'll be using these little tester coasters that are Resident Wombat. Darren, I hope you're watching and I hope you're seeing this. Every time I use one of these, I remember you, man. So this little pillow is essentially house paint, the white house paint and it's 3-to-1 with my pouring medium. And remember, again, my pouring medium is runnier than float roll. So if you're using float roll, add a little water to match my consistency. Okay. And as you can see, I've completely I've completely coated the coaster with paint right over the edges to get an even spin. And then we'll go in with the color layer. Now, the color layer you saw me mixing earlier, I went 1-to-1 paint with the pouring medium. Okay, and then we're going to add a little puddle in the middle. And then we're going to use house paint in the cell activator. Now, one thing to be mindful of is titanium white is probably one of the trickiest colors to get a cell activator working on correctly, because titanium white is thicker than a lot of other colors. You often find that titanium white cell activators have to be thinned out. more than normal. So the very first thing you want to look for is this little halo around the white, that little fuzzy line between the white and the blue. That's the first sign that your cell activator will work. Okay, so as we blow out this cell activator, we're looking for a reaction. It's a little bit slow, but there's definitely a reaction, but it's not. We'll give it a minute to see if it picks up. But so far, this isn't what you'd be hoping for in a bloom. You'd want more of a reaction. So I'll go ahead and water down the cell activator again. So basically what I'm trying to show you is if you see these results, you need to thin your cell activator a little bit more, whether with water or float roll. But if you're doing it with float roll, you'll hit a certain point and you can't get any thinner because your paint mixture will be as thin as the float roll. So from there, you have to add water. Okay? Now, I'm not happy with this at all. I'm gonna add a little bit of water to my cell activator. Still no Minwax, just the pouring medium, a paint conditioner, and the pouring medium is a paint conditioner and our titanium white house paint. Okay, now I'm adding a little water to thin it, and I'm gonna add some more pillow and repeat this process. Here we go, a little bit of pillow. Spin this out to get rid of the blue. One other thing I want to say about the house paint, in the bloom technique, you don't really torch your paints, and when you have paints that are on the thicker consistency side, it's harder to get the bubbles out. So you want to try your best to avoid getting bubbles in the first place. Stir very slowly, and if you can, stir with something round that doesn't create any friction and bubbles. This is some basic physics from my friend Sheldon from Shellrock Art. I actually use these same metal pipes that I blow out the cell activator with to stir, and I get minimal bubbles. So here we go. The cell activator has been watered down a little bit more. I'm seeing a slightly faster reaction now. Still not quite what I'm hoping for. So you see, even if I torch it a little, it doesn't really create any more cells. It doesn't lace up. So from here, I'm going to, rather than water down the cell activator more, I'm gonna go with adding a cell additive like Minwax Pre-Stain. Okay. Now, Minwax Pre-Stain is a wood staining conditioner. Its regular traditional use would be a layer that goes onto the wood before you stain it to get an even stain, and it cures, it dries. It's not like silicone. So it's easier to clean up. So now I've added 3 drops in my cup of cell activator, and we're gonna repeat this process again. I'm adding some pillow paint. I'll add some of the blue again. This time we've added a cell additive to promote cells, and we're going to go in for a blowout and see how this affects the cell activator. Okay, so I'm seeing a faster reaction. So if you're seeing this in your own blooms, I would say thin the cell activator even more with a little bit of water. But when I have a white cell activator that behaves like this, I like to use it with a black cell activator for a very, very interesting effect that I'll show you after this one. You could always use a straw to get more of the, the solid white bits. Just sort of move the paint around, nothing too strenuous so you don't disturb the patterns. And if you blow on your cells, you could enlarge them with just the blowing before you even spin. So now you can see in the close-up, you're getting very well-defined little jelly beans as opposed to lacing. So I'm gonna use that same white cell activator without thinning it some more. But instead of using it on its own, I'm going to top it with a black cell activator. That is the same recipe, same consistency, but you'll see how the black is actually, that's why I'm saying titanium white is a tricky color to make a cell activator with, because its density, like some people use recipes that are 9-to-1 float roll to titanium white, 10-to-1 even. I myself have used very watered down cell activators when I'm using white by itself. So here we go. We'll add a little pillow paint. And this time I'm thinking we can add another color. One of the other colors I had gotten was a shade darker than aquamarine. So I'll put that first. Hopefully in the blowout, the white will cut through it a little and it'll look like it's glowing. And we'll add a little bit of blue. In general, try to reduce the amount of paint you add as you go along, so the top color doesn't completely overpower the bottom. So just one drop of the white cell activator, and just grab the black one real quick. We'll add another drop on top of that. And using two cell activators creates a very interesting effect, particularly when you use white and black, because white and black give the impression of highlights and shadows. So let's go in for a blowout. Oh, look at this. Beautiful reaction. And what you'll notice is the white will kind of form a ring around the cells, and the black will look like an empty space or a shadow, and you'll get an interesting 3D effect from using both black and white as the cell activator. So as I told you before, use a straw, blow very gently. It's mostly the heat from your breath as opposed to the force of you blowing. And we'll give the spinner another spin. Yeah, that looks good for a first spin. Let's do a second one. As you can see, thick paint doesn't go flying off the canvas. I don't even need to create, I don't have to put the spinner in the box. But with bigger paintings, depending on how much paint is on the spinner, if it can cover the spinner, it could probably fly off. So there you go. Those are some very nice, well-defined cells. The aquamarine looks like it's glowing. Let's try this on a bigger canvas. Let's use a CD. And for the many people who've asked me, the way to fill the hole in the CD, I use acrylic putty. It's the stuff that you use to fill cracks in a wall, the stuff that goes under like latex paint. So I'm just removing any of these solids. If your paint has been sitting out for a while, it has a habit of forming these solids, and they can disturb your pattern really badly if they move when you spin. So it's best to get them out early. So this is also some house paint. This is mid yellow. I'll add the aquamarine, and I'll add the blue last, the ultramarine blue last. And as I told you before, reduce the amount of paint as you work your way up the puddle to avoid the top color overpowering everything else. Now we'll go in with a white cell activator first, and top that with the black cell activator that seems to react better. Here we go. Be gentle with your blowouts, by the way. If you hit the white, you've blown on it too hard. You never really want to hit the white inside these petals of the bloom, so to speak. The ideal sweet spot is just before the white, so to have the white cut through slightly and make the last or the first color look like it's glowing. That's what you want. Can you see the cells surrounded by like white circles? That's what I'm talking about with the twin cell activator. I just like to blow out petals out of any solid colors to avoid having solid colors when I spin. Cool. Gently blow on the center. It actually doesn't matter much because when I pick up the CD, that center is going to fall off. If you have muddy, or no, sorry, not muddy. If you have blotches of solid color in your center, CDs could be a great canvas for you. Unfortunately, I'm going to lose those few cells in the center, but otherwise, this is a very, very good reaction. This is all house paint. There you go. Bloom with house paint. Let's give this a spin. Oh, before you spin, this is also a very important tip. You want to make sure that when you tilt, your paint moves together. If the center where you blew down in the first place is not moving, put the painting back down and wait a few minutes so everything spins out evenly. Otherwise, you're going to get strange warping with your cells. Yeah. That is very, very nice. That is very, very nice. I got about, how much? 4 liters worth of paint for the price of 2 tube paints. Same results, if not better. So, yeah, eat your heart out, Arteza. And because CDs are very flat and they get sticky, I usually pinch them with 2 toothpicks to get them off, and immediately go for the center hole with my finger to make sure it doesn't slide off and doesn't fall back down. Let me just show you the results real quick. Come on, get in focus. Amazing. Amazing. My tube paints don't even give me results this good. And yeah, there you go. That's how to bloom with house paint. This was G. I'll see you guys in the next video.